at the US Open to win a first major. 53106 is the text number. We are at Off the Ball. We have Neil Tracy with us. Hello, Neil.
Hi, Joe.
And Johnny Ward. Hello.
Hello, Joe. How are you?
How is your broken maroon heart today, Johnny? It's all over now. That's the summer of 2019 dealt a hefty blow.
It's
still have the races.
It's almost like 2 deaths in the family very quickly or something like that, or 3 if you include Galway United. Like Galway United went down to Cove last weekend and lost to a team that's effectively amateur and is probably in the worst nick it's been on the pitch in a long time, struggling towards the bottom of the first division, and nobody was talking about that really because of what happened in Parnell Park.
Comes in threes, Johnny, it comes in threes.
Yeah, to paraphrase Kavanagh, the defeats come by in 2s and 3s, you know, but there was no dancing in any barns in Galway this weekend because the hurling, the football was bad, but the hurling was just so gutting because to think in mid-June, when I was going, got a lift with a mate from Milltown after the game, but we were driving by Croke Park and I was just like, we're not going to see any hurling there for the next year unless we will go to watch somebody else. And it
Minors, maybe?
Maybe the minors, yeah, but I suppose people were giving out about the kind of the everyone ended up in the same points and how minimal it was that Galway went out, but it wasn't an excuse. They went in there, they didn't beat Carlow by any,
No.
they beat them by 6 points.
Yeah.
They couldn't beat Wexford at home and played poorly.
Yeah.
And things went against them. Conor Whelan getting injured was a massive blow. And I have to say, I thought Dublin were excellent. Conal Keeney, like what an inspiration to us all. Same age as myself. To come back from retirement, and I think he got 3 points, man of the match in some people's eyes. They were really excellent. And Matty Kenny, the irony of the Galway management team that nearly won the Hurling All-Ireland in 2012, basically being at the forefront of the downfall of both the footballers and the hurlers this weekend was utterly bizarre.
Yeah.
And you're wondering now, would Anthony Cunningham potentially fancy the Galway football job down the line? Because there's no doubt that an awful lot of people want to see a new manager in place in Galway. Whether that's harsh or not, and Kevin Walsh, I suppose, up for debate.
Yeah. Actually, Neil, that's your first story. You might as well kick in there with the football.
Yeah, because the celebrations continuing in Roscommon this evening after the county's 24th Connacht senior football title yesterday. Anthony Cunningham's side came from 5 points down at half-time against Galway, holding the defending champions to just 2 points after the break. And Cunningham, who turned 54 over the weekend, as we just mentioned there, has now won provincial titles in different codes in different provinces after leading the Galway hurlers to the Leinster hurling title in 2012. He says he's happier, though, for the fanatical Roscommon supporters.
They are fanatical supporters and delighted for Roscommon supporters. They really, I suppose, they nearly finished the match too early there for us today. So what can you say? That shows the pride and the passion they have.
And for you, to win provincial titles, 2 different codes, 2 different provinces, what does it mean?
Well, I hadn't really thought about that, to be honest. For me, I just love being involved in the game, be it football or hurling, and it's just a privilege to be involved. I'm not getting any younger, so when a job comes up and you know you think you can add something, but I'd have to commend my backroom team. Mark Dowd and Ian Daly are 2 tremendous coaches.
It's some achievement. I'm getting more and more cynical about sport, obviously, less moved by anything. It's all just an industry to me. But watching the joy on kids' faces when they were on the pitch illegally as the referee's trying to get them off.
Yeah.
One of the great thrills, really. We shouldn't be here, but we're on the pitch, Dad. We are on the pitch.
I was in that situation 2013 when Limerick won their first Munster title for God knows how many, what was it, 17 years or something at the time. 96 would have been the last one. We were in that situation. We were in the terrace that day against Cork in the Gaelic grounds, and you thought it was over, and there was a few hundred people worming their way on, and then you're all shoved off for about 20 seconds, and then on you go again.
Did quite well to get them off.
Yeah, because there was a lot of them on at one point, a lot.
Roscommon and Mayo are quite similar in the sense that football is all that really, like in terms of sport, football completely dominates, whereas Galway would have hurling, League of Ireland team. You know, Mayo and Roscommon, there's really no hurling worth talking about. There's no county soccer team, and football is religion there. And I thought it was really striking the difference in the audio from the Roscommon fans when they scored versus the Galway fans. Roscommon fans seem to be way more hungry for victory, and there's a bit of a malaise in terms of Galway's football fans at the minute, in terms of, it was almost like they echoed the collapse of the players in the second half, where they just looked lethargic.
I think it was 17,000 at it yesterday was the something around that was the attendance. Pretty poor for a provincial
poor.
final. Like.
And contrast that kind of to the hurling on Saturday night, where there was an amazing atmosphere, and the Galway fans, when Joe Canning came on, it was unbelievable, the roar when he scored his first point. But I feel in Galway football, and this is speaking to a lot of people down home from the St. Brendan's club where I'm from, there is a sort of an indifference there that was never there back in the day, and an awful lot of it is down to the style of football, unfortunately, because it's not in Galway's DNA to play a defensive game. And now it's arguable the defensive game wasn't what beat them yesterday. Their forwards, they just couldn't get on the ball in the second half.
Yeah.
But there's probably a lot of people who would like to see a change, and someone else coming in after the Walsh era. But sure, we'll see.
Yeah. I suppose it doesn't help the Curra Finn are playing this brilliant brand of football and a winning brand of football as well. Fair play to Johnny Ward for manning up and coming into studio. To continue with the funereal metaphor, I'm surprised he's not at home making sandwiches and jam rolls for the wake of Galway GAA from the boss man.
Well, the boss man, what he says there is a bit of a wake-up call, because the footballers are still in the championship. But Kevin Walsh was... Well, they are. I mean, hang on a sec now.
It's over, Johnny. I mean, in fairness,
they have a better chance of
delaying the inevitable here.
Huh?
We're delaying the inevitable here.
No, well, okay. But this is what I'm getting at, though. Kevin Walsh seemed so despondent after the game that I think the panel of players have to lift themselves and, embrace the fact that they're still in the championship. Ultimately, like Mayo, they have to go down the backdoor route.
Yeah.
But they have to stop feeling sorry for themselves, and hopefully the likes of Conroy and Comer will be on the cusp of coming back.
He was saying afterwards Comer won't probably most likely make the next outing, but could be in after that, which wouldn't be an end result. And Comer will change things up a good degree for them, I would think.
He will. I was reading the Irish Independent today, which in fairness had amazing sports coverage for Monday. It was absolutely packed with everything going today. But Martin Breheny, I think it was Martin Breheny, he did the report anyway. He did the figures out of 10 for the players, and I think one Galway player got more than 6, and most of them got 5, including Fintan O'Curry, who was probably harshly got 5 but was taken off, and that was a big blow, because the second half they just couldn't get on the ball.
Strange second half. That was Walsh's point, by the way, because someone said to him, look, do you maybe the fact you're not scoring is to do with the fact you have so many men behind the ball, and he said,
I hate that.
Yeah,
there's a lot of guff out there about that. Didn't like that question, but he said we just couldn't get our hands on the ball. That was the biggest issue.
Asking Kevin Walsh about Galway's defensive system is akin to asking Mick McCarthy about Stephen Kenny, if you know what I mean. It's just something they're just fed up of talking about it. And I wouldn't necessarily blame the system yesterday, but I would have to look at, in terms of the mentality of the Roscommon team. I sat beside Anthony Cunningham for the second half of the league final, and you're kind of comparing. I was chatting to him about the Roscommon challenge ahead, and he was saying he was completely respectful towards Leitrim.
And did he know you'd be retelling the conversation on radio, or did he know?
No, definitely not. I think he's going to enjoy a beer somewhere tonight as well. He said he hasn't had one in a while, but it is time. Why not celebrate? So
absolutely. Somewhere
in Roscommon, but I don't think it can be revealed where. But he was saying, with respect to Leitrim, hopefully we'll beat Leitrim, but then we've Mayo in Castlebar, and then we'd have Galway in Galway. So you're thinking, it's very improbable.
Yes.
But what happened in the second half in Castlebar, the self-belief they showed to come back after Mayo went ahead at the end, and the self-belief to outscore Galway by 9 points in the second half, and restrict them to 2 points. And I actually did a piece for the match programme for the game where I was saying Galway probably have the better forwards, but they didn't yesterday. Cox was probably the key player again, and Murta as well. Just the tally they got. Cox got 5 points, and there was a lot of talk about the spirit that Roscommon have and all this. Roscommon have very good footballers as well. It shouldn't be lost in that.
Yeah.
They played a lovely brand of football yesterday, I thought.
We're almost talking about this as some kind of shock that they've won their second and third years. They're a Division 1 team at the start of the year. It's not that big.
Fourth final in a row.
Without after time in here.
It was the most predicted win, I think, of the weekend.
But they were 5-2 outsiders yesterday, and I'm thinking they've gone to Castlebar and beaten Mayo, albeit a profligate Mayo team. But there's nothing really competent you could say about this Galway team in terms of beating a team of Roscommon's calibre. And mentally, the most worrying thing about Galway, mentally they looked absolutely shot in the second half yesterday. It was like as if it was inevitability once Roscommon got the goal.
What stage of grief are you at? Have you reached anger?
I think it's still denial. denial.
Close to anger.
I think you're bridging denial.
What is anger? What is anger going to be?
My weekend was going to Bows Rovers, and like I've obviously been absolutely caned for tipping Rovers strongly to win the league and saying that the league was over and all this. And then the Bows fans absolutely butchered me in the bar afterwards for about 2 hours, such that
Literally.
I was literally butchered me figuratively. And then I was reeling on Saturday, but I was like, at least I have the hurling to look forward to. And then the football happened, and now I'm here. Doesn't get any worse.
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
Someone says, to paraphrase Kavanagh, there really only is one Johnny Ward, lads, from Wally. Yeah, that was a nice touch, I thought, as well.
Mightn't have meant that in a nice way.
Just for the record, Galway also lost to Kilkenny in the camogie, so they lost the football, hurling, camogie and soccer. Things can only get better. When was the last Galway success in life?
Probably something to do with the arts festival, or I don't know. We're still a great bunch of lads, but it's been a bit disappointing. I've huge sympathy for the hurlers, to be honest, because the effort they've put in, to think a player of Joe Canning's talent basically didn't hurl this year, it's very tough. And you know the worries as well in the hurling, we're not bringing players through from last year. We didn't look like we'd progressed, and Joe was going to be that bit older next year.
Well, the point was made, you were missing a lot of players during the league, and it was an opportunity to see what was there.
And it didn't, like, they didn't come through. And you know, when Conor Whelan went off, I was thinking, this isn't good, like, especially if he's long term out, because we hadn't hope win the All-Ireland without him.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's irrelevant now.
We'll park the Galway issue for a moment. Tipperary then, I mean, it was a strange kind of game yesterday. The big takeaway, obviously, besides the fact that they'll play Limerick in the Munster final, are the injuries.
Yeah, they're really counting the cost of yesterday's Munster Hurling Championship win against Limerick. 122 to 21 point winners against the All-Ireland champions, who they'll now meet again in the Munster decider in a fortnight's time. But the Premier lost both Cathal Barrett and Patrick Bonnermire to leg injuries during the first half of that game. Manager Liam Sheedy says he doesn't know the full extent of the injuries, but speaking afterwards, he did hint they are now likely to miss the Munster final at the Gaelic grounds.
We won't exactly know I suppose the impact of those injuries yet. Obviously Cathal and Bonner are two really serious warriors for us. It's very, very unfortunate, and to lose both of them in the first half was certainly a tough pill to swallow. But you know, again, I thought the reaction of the lads and the group, and you know, our guys went in and stepped up, and as I said, thankfully we managed to hold on. But still, you know, I'd say at this stage, you know, it's highly unlikely that either of them, I'd say, will make the Munster final. You know, obviously with any type of a strain at all, it'll take longer than a week or two, I would imagine. But look, as I said, you know, that's the nature of the game. You know, there's always a danger that somebody gets a knock, and that's why we have a panel. So we called on our panel today, and they responded.
I'm interested in Neil's view on this, because I think Limerick did the right thing yesterday in terms of the way they approached that game. I'm not sure Tipp did, and I know you could make strong, like, kind of spiritual, philosophical arguments for what Tipp did, but Limerick were, to paraphrase a horse, like, they weren't really off yesterday. They were more like, nah, this isn't the day. We're gonna hold off in reserve.
Yeah, no, I really haven't actually seen too much of yesterday's game because I watched the football last night on the Sunday game, and I'd been in here yesterday afternoon working away, so
you need to explain yourself.
Didn't really get to see any of it live, so I had planned to watch at home this evening though. But yeah, resting a few players. I'd say Limerick, having gone through the back door last season, finishing third, they were probably fairly confident that there would have been a wild set of results needed for them to finish outside the top three anyway. They were probably feeling they were able to take the chance, and having gone through that last year, they knew the route. I'd say from Tipp's point of view, even if Barrett and Bonnermire, if they aren't too seriously injured, if they just miss a Munster final, it's not really the end of the world, because the way the hurling championship is now, like, sometimes you're kind of left with a bit of a long gap if you do win Munster and go straight through.
Absolutely.
I think the way John Colley went about it was the right way, as in he didn't put out a full team. It's not so good if you put out a full team and then you play in a kind of 7 out of 10 intensity and you lose. Whereas
excuses.
There's a ready-made excuse.
Yeah.
They don't want to get into some kind of crazy saga with Tipperary here and punch each other out early doors. There'll be 40,000 plus at the Gaelic grounds for a Munster final in 2 weeks' time. That's the one to win.
Yeah.
So I think it's not the worst way of doing it. By leaving players off, then you kind of set the tone. Whereas if they just sent a full team out and said, right, go out and see what happens, you know, it's a bit of a confidence blow to lose. Meanwhile, World Cup in France, Germany are through.
Yeah, two-time champions Germany cruised into the last 16. They finished top of Group B after a 4-0 win against bottom side South Africa. Melanie Lupol, Sarah Dibritz, Alexandra Popp and Lena Magul all scored, making it 3 wins from 3 for them. Meanwhile, Spain and China are both through to the next round. They played out a scoreless draw. Spain will finish second in that group. China, though, are guaranteed to advance as one of the best third-place finishers. Host France need just a point tonight against Nigeria Nigeria to finish top of Group A. Norway also need just a point to go through to the next round. They're taking on South Korea, and those games kick off at 8 o'clock.
Frank Lampard.
Yeah, Derby County say they're yet to receive an official approach from Chelsea about Frank Lampard. The former Chelsea midfielder is a hot favourite to take over at the Blues following Maurizio Sarri's departure yesterday. He left the club after just one season in charge, taking the vacant position at Italian champions Juventus. Derby chairman Mel Morris says the club are eager to keep Lampard and that Chelsea have yet to make an official approach for their services, but they are willing to speak to them.
Jonathan Northcroft in the Sunday Times was writing about this yesterday, and you won't be shocked to hear Frank Lampard has misgivings about joining Chelsea as manager, given what happens to every Chelsea manager. So the Northcroft piece had quoted friends of Lampard's, and it seems Abramovich has got on the phone personally with Lampard to reassure him that he'll be absolutely 100%, no matter what happens, be given 2 transfer windows. And given that there's a transfer window ban at the moment, that will be a guaranteed 2 seasons, 2 full seasons, no matter what. So it seems Lampard's going to go along with that. Obviously, Abramovich hasn't been very involved of late. The entrepreneurial visa's been taken away from him, and the corporate box. Apparently, Abramovich was spending £1 million sterling a year on his corporate boxes. He wasn't just taking it for free. I mean, ultimately, it doesn't matter. You know, you're just moving money around. But so he had stopped even paying for the corporate box over the last 18 months or so. Whereas it seems like maybe Lampard, the romance of getting him back in, might rejuvenate Abramovich's feelings towards the club. But Lampard will be going there on the understanding that he absolutely has a 2-year deal. Now, I don't know what shape does that take. Like if they fire him and they pay him, I don't know what recourse
how attractive a job is it when you do have the transfer embargoes?
No, and when you've just lost Eden Hazard, it's a fair question. It's a fair question.
It's the second.
When you only have 1 year of management behind you as well.
This the second album syndrome in terms of Lampard, because it is very important what happens to him next, because he's a promising manager. Again, a bit like Solskjaer at Man United, I don't really get, like, Frank Lampard wouldn't have a hope of getting that job if he hadn't played for Chelsea, but I don't really know what the relevance of his playing career for Chelsea is in terms of how good he'll be as a manager at Chelsea, without missing the fact that he's done well at Derby, obviously.
Yeah, I know there's a total marketing romantic aspect to the appointment, 100%.
Like Sarri was probably a very good coach, and it's kind of alarming that he lasted so. It was such a short stint, and I bet you he'll do a great job at Juve, you know.
It never felt right though, did it?
Not the early days. They looked promising early on. I know. Like, remember some of the players were saying like, he's really rejuvenated. David Luiz, Barkley was saying like, I've never trained like this before, but it seemed to lose its kind of punch pretty quickly.
Well, even you think, I was saying to Neil yesterday, Jurgen Klopp, after any big Liverpool game, or certainly after the Champions League win, and the way he interacts with his players, Pochettino and his players, Pep and his players, you think of like Chelsea lifting the Europa League trophy and Sarri is sort of standing
off in the background,
sort of to the left, not sure what to do, just the chemistry wasn't quite there. It's always been a fairly toxic dressing room, the Chelsea dressing room. So like Lampard's been part of dressing rooms that have basically ignored the managers and won things, and now he's going to have to go in and almost reverse that culture a little bit, which could be interesting. Like I kind of hope he gets it just from a journalistic point of view, because it's fascinating.
It's really interesting,
the one thing about Sarri, he's some of his interviews after games, like he wasn't the striker that had like perennial troubles in front of goal. I can't think if he's in the Chelsea guy.
Which one?
Morata. So Morata played one game. I completely forget what game it was, but he did another shocker.
Yeah.
And like Sarri, basically, without naming him, just said he said something like, we were great for 90% of the pitch.
Yeah.
And he was like, the 10% was crap, basically, and that was squarely saying Morata was crap.
Yeah.
And I was just, it was one thing that struck me. I was like, in terms of your man management skills, like Morata probably needs a bit more than that at the moment.
Yeah. We'll get Pat Nevin on in the next few days, get his thoughts on this. The one kind of intriguing aspect, which we probably don't have the depth and knowledge to comment on, is what quality Chelsea have coming through the ranks. And obviously they own about 1 billion players who they loan out. It's a business model in itself. Like maybe there's a class of 92 kind of vibe they could get going. Lampard at the helm. That's the dream scenario.
Romantic.
Obviously,
something else.
It could blow up in their faces. Gary Woodland.
Yeah, held his nerve last night to win his first major title. The 35-year-old American, who'd only ever finished in the top 10 of a major twice, birdied his final hole of the day to seal a 3-shot victory at the US Open last night. Woodland led Justin Rose by 1 shot coming into the final day, but Rose struggled to a 3-over round of 74. Brooks Koepka did make a move though, birdieing 4 of his first 5 holes, and Woodland says he didn't flinch down the stretch.
I was trying to enjoy the moment, come in with a good attitude, and it's obviously an uncomfortable position being in the lead at a major championship, but I'm trying to enjoy being uncomfortable, enjoy the moment, enjoy the pressure, and really thrived on it.
Yeah, Woodland was interesting in that he'd been the 54-hole leader 7 times previously in his career and never seen out a tournament. So we were expecting a wobble, and it just didn't come at all. Like, it was never even a hint of a wobble. Even when Brooks Koepka made a stunning kind of start, Woodland was just ice cool and cruised home in the end, it felt like.
Yeah, really, really good. That has seen him climb 13 places in the world rankings as well to a career high 12th. Koepka remains first while Rory McIlroy's dropped 1 spot. Despite finishing in a tie for 9th place at the US Open, he's fallen to 4th place and is overtaken by Justin Rose. Shane Lowry's up 1 place in the rankings to 31st, and Graham McDowell is back inside the world's top 100 with his 3 under par finish seeing him move up to 89.
It's amazing. He was like 257th in the world 2-3 months ago, McDowell. Transformed his season and his career in many ways, because it looked like he was on the way out, like he was kind of done before his 40th birthday. We're going to talk to Paul McGinley around 8:45 or so. He'll give us his thoughts on the US Open. Meanwhile, I had to do a double take on this. Are we going to have a daily feed of
97 days to go and it's
World
already
Cup
started?
rugby stories? I just feel like I can't. I'm not ready to. Are there going to be press conferences like every few days? What's happening?
Probably not. But no, just the Irish rugby team's World Cup preparations officially began today. The 44-man squad have started day 1 of pre-season training, 3 weeks after the Pro 14 final win, which Leinster won. 97 days out from the opening game against Scotland, so still plenty of time to whittle down that squad from 44 to 31.
We can safely say I've never heard a story based on today's their first day of pre-season training before. I mean,
what's interesting about what I think is interesting about
this whatsoever.
No, what I think is interesting about it is
it's kind of interesting
when you can see if you work into the fact that 2 days ago the French season ended.
Oh yeah,
that's nuts.
And that's absolutely nuts, and that's obviously the big reason why players aren't being selected when they're going over to France, and why the Irish management want to keep as many Irish players in there as possible, because that's just going to disrupt things completely. Granted, there weren't any Irish players playing in the top 14 final the other day, but if there is, that changes the dynamic of the training completely.
Toulouse beat Clermont, by the way. Did you watch it?
I didn't actually see any of it. No, I just saw highlights.
I watched a bit of it.
Yeah,
Clermont were terrible.
Were they?
Yeah,
just typical Clermont in finals.
Just couldn't kick the ball away. Mm-hmm. I think it was really shocking. But so what will France do now? They'll have to give the lads a few weeks off. Do Ireland
knowing France, they probably started training last week or something like that with the season still going on.
And do Ireland need 97 days of a pre-season? They do.
Joe Schmidt probably does. It is Joe Schmidt.
97 days. They've only been off 3 weeks.
Well, no, what they are going to be doing is they're going to do a couple of weeks, take a break for a little week. So they're going to have pre-season camps in Galway and Limerick to break things up as well, apart from the base in Maynooth. But as Alan Quinlan outlined this morning on OTBAM, this is how the next few weeks are going to play out.
We all talk about the idea of who are going to be the bolters for a World Cup squad. If you flip that a little bit, who are the ones that are in most danger here?
Jeez, that's a hard question. I think Rory Best has to play well over the summer, or not play well, but train well and look sharp, and he's your captain.
He's got to hit some, whatever his baseline fitness markers have been over the last decades.
Rory works incredibly hard. He won't mind me saying it, but I think everyone really on, and they're like Conor Murray, Johnny Sexton, they've got to show good form. But you know what? Pre-season is also a great time to psychologically kind of clear out the baggage and bring in the excitement and the intrigue of what's ahead.
How easy is that on a year like this, though? Because it seems like the season has just finished. They've had a couple of weeks off and they're back into it today. So is it easy to hit reset and not have that baggage?
Well, look, it's not easy to completely get rid of it, because it'll be in the back of their minds. But the more you train well, get good fitness scores, you start preparing well in training, things start to click, the ball stays up, it's not being dropped. You know, you get into the flow and the rhythm, you start to build that bit of belief and confidence.
So there'll be a curtain house for the next 80 odd days?
No, I think it's like 2-3 weeks. They'll have a week off, maybe come back for another couple of weeks, break things up like that, and they'll travel around the country a little bit. So they're not just sitting in the one hotel room.
That's a good idea.
Off the Ball AM, of course, our daily sports breakfast show here on Off the Ball. It's on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, live every single weekday morning from 7:30.
One last brief rugby story then, seeing as you're working all the rugby stuff into this. They've rejigged the Guinness Pro 14 conferences in a dramatic way or a non?
Not really too dramatic. They've just changed it around based on the kind of scores of the last couple of seasons. So this is how the next 2 seasons are going to play out. Leinster and Ulster.
Would most people be able to list off the 2 conferences teams?
I'd say a good few fans would. Certainly, yeah.
We might do a
If you're a good fan of one of the provinces, I'd say you definitely would.
Okay.
But Leinster, Ulster and Munster Connacht are going to remain paired together. So Leinster and Ulster will both go over to Conference A, as will the Dragons. So they'll be joined there by the Glasgow Warriors, the Ospreys, the Cheetahs and Zebra. While Conference B now looks wide open. Munster and Connacht will go over there, as will the Cardiff Blues. And alongside them will be last year's surprise package Benetton, the Scarlets, Edinburgh and the Southern Kings, with all but the South African side pretty much harbouring realistic Champions Cup qualification ambitions.
Okay. Cheers for that, Neil. Before we get to an ad break, I should tell you Off the Ball is heading for some winter sun and some top-class golf. We want you to join us. The Off the Ball crew with special guests Kevin Kilban, Kieran Donaghy, Peter Lowry are taking on 2 of the best courses on the planet, the Yaslings and the National, for the first ever Off the Ball Open. It's on this November. 5 nights in a 4-star hotel. There will be a Peter Lowry golf clinic to sort out your golf game, a gala dinner and a road show as well. This November 17th to 23rd in Abu Dhabi. If it sounds like your kind of thing, then sign up now at offtheball.com/open. That is our news round pretty much done for this evening. Neil, thank you.
Thank you.
Johnny Ward, go home, lick those wounds, come back stronger, better, hungrier.
House private and all that.
House private.
Yeah.
Galway for Sam.
I doubt it.
On that theme, we're talking to Mike Quirk and Billy Joe Padden next.
Off the Ball on Newstalk. Newstalk reporter Henry McKean has faced his fair share of challenges down the years.
I just got hit there by a boulder. We can see stuff coming out from inside me as we speak. Oh my God, that's so good.
And now it's your turn to challenge Henry.
Oh yeah. Do you think you have the ultimate challenge for me? Then email me, challengehenry@newstalk.com.
Challenge Henry, only on News.